Starting in 3, 2, 1. This debate contains a Latin sentence that we've seen been integrated in society starting from the 14th, 15th century, or as far as we can go back in time. We see the Ottoman Empire use things such as banishing people from their empire within because they think it's a responsibility for them to fulfill whatever responsibility that the country puts on them or the empire puts on them when it comes to dying for their country, right? We see Roman Empire starting or putting their children in place or making sure that they have military training starting from the age of 7 because they think it's so integral that whatever the country or the nation or the empire tells you what to do, whether that be dying for the nation, is something that's integral. Because then they use the same mechanism to make sure that they can enforce whatever political or personal agendas that they have to be able to make sure that their interests are the one that's reflected within society and they're able to coerce populations within to be able to make sure that they're bringing about that change. Right? This is something we still see currently happening in the 21st century, and that's what we're against in this particular model. Right? When we see governments across the globe being able to use things such as saying that, oh, this is going to be so gratifying because you're going to die for your country as a mechanism or a model or a tool for them to be able to implement policies which are going to only introduce or implement their interests across the globe, we think that's problematic, and that's exactly why we think that this model does not stand. Before
Point,
I move on
sir.
to any of our positive argumentation, please sit down, sir. I'm going to talk to you about how we're going to frame this debate and what grounds we're going to talk about. When we're talking about things such as you not thinking that dying for the country is something that's so sweet and not something not fitting, we're against the idea of you saying or implying that if you're going to die for your country, you're going to get some sort of gratification of it, right? It's going to be some sort of beautiful death that's going to be extremely fitting. That's the model that we're against because we think death is something that needs to be perceived as sad and tragic, and that's something that should happen in all circumstances when death happens, right? But secondly, we're also against the idea of what you're showing in society is dying to be something that's considered to be so black and white, right? We think you're undermining the sanctity of life when you're saying, oh, these people are going to inevitably die anyways, and that's
Point,
why they're
sir.
going to go into the military, and that's what the responsibility you have. We think you undermine the sanctity of life when you say that, and that's something when you're not placing enough importance or value on a human's life individualistically, something that we're against. And thirdly, when we're telling you about the idea of militaries and how militaries are completely structured or based on the idea of dying for countries, we think that's something that should now only be considered as something that is a profession, right? Something where you make a voluntary decision to go into that responsibility, and only then are you able to operate in that capacity, right? Not something where you're coerced by saying, oh, this is something that you have to do because you owe this responsibility to the country, and it's going to be amazing when you die inevitably. With that, moving on to our two different positive
Point, sir.
argumentation, please sit down, which are divided among two different lines of arguments. The first one, which talks about how this narrative is flawed in its essence, because what it necessarily does is propagates political agendas, not you dying for the country. What you're essentially doing is dying for political agendas. And the second argument, which talks about how it leads to exploitation and coercion within society, and how it makes people and individuals inside society seem as disposable who can just come and go whenever the government pleases.
Point,
the first
sir.
argument, which talks about how this narrative is flawed in its essence, and how you basically propagating political agendas, right? Any sort of government, any sort of society in this current 21st century or in the status quo, we see different types of functions or different types of parties, right? You have different type of political parties that have certain individualistic interests that they want to propagate in whatever capacity is possible. Whether that be the political party that's in the majority, whether that be the political party that's opposition, you have certain types of agendas or values that they're going to want to implement and they're going to want to introduce. What does this look like? This looks like, for example, in the Pakistani system, you having Pakistani groups that are only in favor of propagation of Muslim ideologies or Sharia law. This looks like things such as the BJP party in India only wanted to publicize Hindu supremacy, and you having some sort of political ideologies or beliefs that you want to implement within society. Why is this a bad thing? Because understand that these are the same people that are in power, right? These are the same people who have the ability to make these decisions and be able to use whatever they want to be able to utilize the resources at their hand to be able to propagate these same beliefs, right? Why is this problematic? Because military and stuff like this also comes under that consideration. They have the mechanism, they have the tools, and they have the resources to be able to use that to their own advantage. These same interests that we highlight to you in this particular situation are the ones that they're going to advocate for by using things such as this and using these resources to only fight out in favor of interests like this. What does this look like? What does this look like? For example, the idea of colonization, right? We think it's unfair to say that everybody who was part of the British Army wanted to go into Pakistan and take everything that they had, right? We think that's problematic to assume because of the essence that this was something that was decided by the Royal Army. They wanted to do it, and there were particular interests of people at the top, right? Only then were these people now forced to go into these countries and be able to take out these or commit these atrocities that we saw happen, right? Or secondly, the idea of, for example, you having Sunni sects within Saudi Arabia that think that this is only thing that should be propagated within the country. Once again, we think this is something that's extremely individualistic, and you need to consider this in army as well. If someone is going to die for the cause, you need to consider individualistic beliefs as well, something we think doesn't happen when these public capacities or public officials have the ability to make these decisions, right? Because why do these decisions happen? Because when they have the authority or the capacity to be able to do it, they're going to use these militaries or forces to be able to propagate these opinions or beliefs in whatever way possible. And when you also introduce that or complement that with the notion of you not being able to ask questions, something we see in military structures, you're not going to be able to bring about any change whatsoever. So what does this do? Firstly, as an impact, in essence, what you're doing is you're not necessarily dying for your country in the first place. This whole idea that it's going to be sweet and fitting doesn't stand, because what you're dying for is political parties and their political agendas. You are not dying for the country or the Islamic State Republic of Pakistan. You're dying for a person in bulletproof V8s and people in DHA plots and with PDHA plots, right? This is problematic, and this is you need to understand, because these are the same people who are going to make the decision, who are implementing policies and values all across the country. But secondly, this also gives more capacity to the authoritarian regime. When you talk to you about Democratic People's Republic of Korea and talk about similar countries, you have these regimes now carrying out operations or carrying out notions within society that you have to give back to the government, right? Because this is how it's going to work. You need to die for a country because it's going to be so sweet and fitting. We think this is problematic in the sense because you're giving them a lot more room and capacity to be able to carry these things out. That's our first line of argumentation. Before I move on to the second one, yes.
I can hate PTI, but I still love my country and work for it. How do you then disagree with this phrase?
We think this is very problematic to assume, because the sense that when we tell you that we're talking about the idea of dying for your country, right? That isn't something that you can put on such a minuscule level. We're not saying, oh, we're just going to go out and work for them. You have the idea of you possibly, potentially losing your life. That is something that team opposition cannot make seem so minuscule in this debate. Second argument, which talks about the idea of how it leads to exploitation and coercion and sees people as disposable, right? Paint a picture of the military system in the United States of America and how it recruits people. You have just graduated from a school, possibly you're from a lower, please sit down, so I will not be taking any more POIs, socioeconomic background where you don't have the backing or the privilege to be able to have that amazing of future prospects, you don't have a university to go to, so on and so forth, right? We think this is important to understand when you talk about how military recruits these people in the first place. When you have these ideas, when you have this implementation of a system in society where these are the people that they're going to look out to, you have someone from the military then recruit them. You have West Point Academy, or for example here you have the Pakistani Military Academy, then sending them invites, right? Why is this bad? Because this whole narrative of dying to be able to make sure that it's sweet and fitting is based on the narrative that is something that is going to be so self-gratifying and so self-fulfilling that it's something that these people are going to look out for. Essentially, in its essence, what the government is doing is looking for people who are actively seeking this type of thing, right? They want this sort of self-fulfillment, they want this sort of self-actualization that the government or the military structures then propose to them in a way that, oh, if you join us, this is something that's going to happen, right? This is something that you're going to be able to implement within your life because we're going to give you a reason or cause to do so. We think this is problematic for two reasons, right? Firstly, because you're eliminating the idea of informed consent, right? You're manipulating them to the point where you think that this is something that's going to happen and reducing them within your structures only because you're seeking responsibility. Because understand that the government is only going to look for people to take these positions of powers, the same people that this government failed in the first place, right? Because these are the people who are in less structural, who have more structural problems, are in lesser place in society, and the government then goes out to these people and tries to find them and says, oh, it's going to be so sweet and fulfilling, that's why you need to join us. We think this is how coercion stems within society, and this is something that we've currently seen happening in the status quo, right? But on a second level, when you also have this narrative that when you go into the military, you're going to die a beautiful death and it will only be rainbows and butterflies, the problem that you're setting in that scenario is you see individuals and humans within your country as something that is disposable. You see this idea that you're going to only have these people come into the military and then go away because they're going to die in a span of 5-7 years, and new people will be recruited in the same way. This is problematic because it doesn't bring about any change when it comes to the military structure altogether, right? When you have the idea of people now being seen or thought of as disposable, you're never going to have any implementation of measures or any sort of policies that are going to prevent these sort of deaths happening in the first place. Because as a military's objective, it should also be an objective to make sure that you put as many minimal people in harm's way as possible, right? We think when you see them as disposable and you have this sort of identification, this is something that's not going to be implemented in your society, and it's because of the grassroots of you saying that these people are now going to be convinced that dying for their country is what they're going to do and what they're going to get themselves into when they get themselves involved in the military. For these reasons, we are very proud to propose.